I mean, because fixing the power grid would be hard.
Oh, yeah,
that'd be a
lie.
challenge. But, some trans kid at some high school 4 towns away, you can, like, make that person, make some high school kid the boogeyman. That's much easier.
That's Welcome back, guys, to Cases and Cocktails. This is episode 21. Thank you for joining us today. I'm here with my beautiful wife, Janice. How are you doing today?
Fabulous. How are you?
Good. Fantastic. We've got a special guest today, Miss Christine Andersen. How are you doing?
I am good. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us, one. I didn't think that, I still can't believe that people actually come on and do this thing. So I greatly appreciate that.
You have a very persuasive colleague.
Well, that's true. That's true. Miss French is very persuasive. Yes. She is. Can I ask you that question first? How do you know Jillian?
Oh, just through lawyer stuff, I think.
Okay, yeah.
I think hanging out at Advanced Family. I think she came up and talked to me after something I spoke at when she was a little baby lawyer, and I remembered her. Yeah.
Well, so first of all, are you now, and I can freely say this about Miss French. She is a social butterfly.
Indeed. Yeah.
Yes. And I love her, but I love that about her. Are you a social butterfly?
Not as much as she is.
As she is. That's fair. That's fair.
I mean, I think, yeah. I end up going out to a lot of, it's like lawyer parties, right?
Okay,
but, so you discount a little.
Yeah. It's not quite a party,
they're not that crazy, but,
That's fair. That's fair. I will tell you, I'm the antithesis of that. I'm not a social butterfly at all, and I don't like doing that stuff. So Janice loves it. It's her favorite thing. She said no.
Just want to hang at the house with my kids.
No, yeah, that's right. That's right. Christine, you're a lawyer as well, obviously. Yeah. It's why you're going to lawyer parties. Tell me how long you've been practicing.
I did the math, and 18 and a half years.
Wow.
It's been a minute.
Wow, that's awesome.
In Texas.
Does it feel that
Austin.
way?
It's not a day over 10 and a half years.
Right,
Yeah.
that's fair. That's fair. That's fair. You've got a website. Tell us the URL.
It's chalaw.com.
CHALAW.com.
That's me.
Fantastic. And you said 18 years doing it in Austin, right? That sort of stuff. I was looking at your website, and you've got kind of this tagline.
Yeah, I help people make babies.
Yes, it's fantastic, right? It's fantastic. You help people make babies. It's like
sometimes people need a lawyer involved.
Well, and that's what I was going to say. It's so different, right? Than most of the time, we'll help you get rid of your ex, right? We'll help you get rid of things, right? And instead, you're like, hey, I'll help you make babies. Yeah. Tell us a little bit why.
Well, when 3 people make a baby, it's sometimes a good idea to write a few things down.
That's
like,
fair.
Who are the parents? Who is someone just a donor? What's going on in this situation? So,
so you obviously help people in those situations,
sure.
And this is really, we're talking about parentage, right? We're talking about different things. We've got reproductive rights, and then we've also got parentage and determining who's the parent, who's not,
sure.
that sort of stuff. And then obviously there's disputes. That's why we're lawyers. That's why we're here.
Yes.
I got to ask this question: how did you get involved in that?
So I was always just sort of intellectually fascinated by surrogacy, and this like interesting and new high tech ways to make babies.
Yeah.
I do a lot of LGBTQ plus legal issues.
Okay.
So from the start, I've worked with that community where if you've got 2 women or 2 men, there's generally going to be a third person involved in some way, shape, or form, most depending what's happening.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I started going to conferences. I think the first thing I did is I put on my website that I did it, and then started learning enough to be able to like actually take care of people who came in, just going to national conferences and learning up enough bit by bit.
That's amazing. I love that. I'm curious, when you got started, you thought it was one thing that you were interested in it. Is it still the same? Do you feel the same way?
Well, when I started, I did a lot more CPS.
Okay.
So that's Child Protective Services, which is its own kind of niche in family law.
Yeah.
It kind of overlaps with the other areas, and it's kind of just its own thing and world. I still do the tiniest bit of that. I'll take those on as kind of a low bono thing.
Yeah.
I have the moment like one appointment case, and then when that finally closes, I'll probably take on 5
others. Right.
So I came up doing a lot of litigation, a lot of CPS, getting really comfortable, talking to judges,
doing the
in
stuff.
this particular niche. And it does touch on parentage issues. It's in a different kind of way where you have like 2 potential dads, maybe.
Right.
So or siblings where there's multiple fathers. I mean, so you'll have. It's not as high tech usually.
Right.
The parentage issues that come up.
Yeah.
But so yeah, and then between the parentage issues I learned from that, and then LGBT, and then from like more book learning, and then working with clients who needed reproductive help, it came with a pretty full picture of when people fight over parentage, or when people don't want to fight and they hire a lawyer in the first place, so there won't be a fight later.
Yeah, the idea is to proactively, right? The idea is the individuals go into this. And everyone's sort of on board, right? Conceptually, right? We're going to work together to make a baby.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, ideally.
Ideally, right.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of on board, and then the idea is to kind of proactively put some things in place so you don't have the fight.
It can be very like the stitch in time saves 9
area
of law, where I'm doing agreements up front, and it's very rare that those people end up fighting, or if they fight, they're not fighting over, are you even a parent?
Yeah.
They might be fighting over a schedule.
Right.
But like any breakup.
Right.
But we're not fighting over, are you even a parent? Because that is very locked down. Yeah. But anyone can have a fight if they put their mind to it.
I was going to say, that happens all the time.
Yeah. For the cases where people are being proactive and they're coming to you before there's a baby, what are some of the things that you guys work through? What are some of the things that are in these agreements?
Okay, well, I just worked on a known sperm donor agreement the other day. And so one of the things we're talking about is the 2 recipients, usually 2 women, although it can be an opposite sex couple who's receiving if there's fertility issues. But it's often 2 women who are working with a known sperm donor. And one of the things we put in there to protect the donor is he's not a parent, and that means he won't pay child support, for example.
Yeah.
Just to make it really clear, he doesn't have the benefits of being a parent, but he doesn't have the burdens either.
Right.
That's usually pretty much in all of them, and everyone wants it that way. But there is a question of the couple, is the non-biological mother going to go on and adopt, which is an extra cost of time and money, but it helps protect his rights if she takes that step. So we talk about that, and when the donor has an attorney, they usually negotiate that time period earlier. So that's something we talk about. Also, we talk about in those situations what happens if there's leftover embryos. And generally, the donor is saying, I'm giving that to y'all. I don't have any rights over them. Right. That's just my donation for y'all to use, get rid of if you're done building your family, donate to science. Occasionally, the 2 recipients will say what they'll do with them between each other, which I have had a colleague once tell me, came up in a divorce and they decided to renegotiate, but it was, she asked why I put that, and I was like, I don't know.
Because this is what we do, right?
Yeah.
Can I ask real quick, just to build on that?
Sure.
So you've got the donor, and I'm going to use your scenario, right?
Yeah.
So you have 2 women and one man, and he's donating, and you're saying, hey, okay, he's going to go away, right? And what I mean by that, right? And I'm not being dismissive, but he's saying, I'm not going to be a parent, and to use your terms, right? He doesn't have the benefits or the burden of being a parent, and so now you have the other 2. One of the women will carry the child, typically, I guess maybe not. I guess you could have a surrogate on top of that.
There's reciprocal IVF where one of them donates the eggs and one of them carries. Generally in these, they're going to do an insemination because it's cheaper medically.
Okay. And then one of the other women then has to adopt, right? And that
Well, okay, so often they're married. So often she
Okay.
would have access, if there was a dispute, if there was a disaster before an adoption happened,
Right.
she would often have access to a presumption of parentage.
Okay.
So you could argue she doesn't need to adopt because she's legally already a parent,
right.
which I would argue in the event of a dispute if I came to this later and I was representing her.
Right.
We have a term of art we sometimes call bad biomom cases.
Okay. Yeah.
LBB cases. Anyway, maybe that's a little too inside baseball.
Yeah.
But if someone's trying to say she's not a parent, she has access to, and then if it's through ART, there's a case out of El Paso, which I like to call the DAB case, DAAB, where she may be not even presumed to be a parent, but already a parent under an ART statute in the family code.
Tell me, to explain what an ART is.
Sorry, assisted reproductive technology.
Perfect.
So that's
Perfect.
making babies through science.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
So maybe she's fine, but the family insurance thing to do, and this also protects the donor,
Right.
and protects them against the donor, is to do an adoption. So in the adoption, you can do an adjudication that he's a non-parent, just a donor. We
Right.
have a judge say that. Then we say his rights, if any, are terminated in case the law changes or evolves in the next 19 years.
Right.
And then we have the non-biological mother adopt. And that makes it extraordinarily hard for anyone to attack later,
yeah.
even if they fight, even if biomom dies, even
yeah.
if CPS gets involved,
Okay. Yeah.
So let's say we're in Travis County and we don't have the adoption part of it. And then they get divorced. What happens?
Travis County?
Travis County.
Travis County married non-biomom is adjudicated as mother as part of the divorce.
Because it's a child's,
Yeah.
it's a child of the marriage.
But you asked me, what if it's in Travis County? We go down to Hayes. Hayes is kind of purple. You get much further into the sticks. And
that's
I don't know. Not every judge would agree with my analysis.
Yeah. And that's
There's
fair.
some father's rights kind of thinking out there,
right.
which I don't have to agree with, but I need to be aware of. And
Yeah.
I need
Absolutely.
to first question what county.
Right. Yeah. That's fantastic.
But in order to protect the
go ahead.
parties, regardless of the county, then, because people move, right? So just because they're here when they're going through this process or when they got married doesn't mean that that's where they're going to be when they get divorced potentially in the future. So to firm it up, you're saying the best way to do it then is to have the non-bio mom adopt.
Second parent adoption.
Okay.
There's a 6 months no attacks statute, which makes adoptions extremely difficult to attack
Right.
after 6 months.
Right.
As
As it
the
says.
statute's name.
Sure. Yeah.
No attacks.
Yeah.
But it makes it that much harder for other mom in a divorce, the mean relatives if there's a death, or
right.
CPS if there's government involvement, to come and say, I don't think you're a parent if there's like a court-ordered adoption decree.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you do this all across the state?
I'll do ART and adoptions all across the state,
Right.
and I might their court order might say Travis County,
Right,
but I'll take people statewide for those kinds of practices. For disputes, I go about an hour outside Austin.
Okay.
You can get me up to Belton and maybe down to San Antonio. But
Okay, that's fair.
For fights,
Yeah, yeah. Try to stay
closer
right
to
here
home,
in
yeah.
Central Texas. That's fantastic. So you've been doing this for almost 18 years, and during that time, can you give me well, let me ask it this way: do you have a memorable case when it comes to ART or to parentage? It's got to be great in some capacity because you're making
Making
families.
families.
Like a lot of
Yeah.
times,
I mean, that's kinda nice.
right?
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say it's a juxtaposition from what we do, right? Because oftentimes
Absolutely.
we're part of the disassembling of a family, maybe.
Some people
Right.
need to not be married anymore.
Right, I agree. I agree with that.
And
yeah.
we do it as tidily as we
Yes,
can,
yeah.
given the circumstances in which we find our clients.
Yes.
But it's a different need, but it's a
Yeah.
need that at the end of the day, you literally help make a family.
I probably break up more families a year. I don't know. No, maybe it's a tie. Maybe it's a tie.
Now she's
right?
trying to do math in there. Look
Yeah,
at her.
I know, yeah.
She's trying to think about it.
I don't know. Maybe maybe I do more family formation than divorce these days. But every now and then I like make people get married, which is kind of funny. I'm a catalyst. I'm
Right,
like,
right.
it
You're
seems like you're at a point in your relationship and it would be cheaper on your legal fees and make the judge look at your relationship in a slightly different way.
Yeah, if you just went ahead and got married, right?
Yeah,
I'll be
let
honest,
me know.
And I'll be honest with you, Christine. I'm a proponent of marriage as a divorce lawyer, and so I want you to know
Full
that.
employment.
I don't think you can say that.
That's very romantic.
Yes,
Yeah.
Christine's the one doing it. It's not me. I'm letting her. I'm telling her I'm championing her cause. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. I want to talk.
I was just saying, I have been married to my husband for 19 years, so that is also possible. I don't know how long y'all have been together. You seem good.
Yeah, we've been together. We've been together what 48, 49 years, 60 years, something like that. That's what you told me it felt like the other day. Is that
Feels
it?
like it sometimes.
It's exactly right. That's fair. That's fair. I want to talk real fast too. You do a lot of work with the LGBTQ plus community. I apologize, and tell me right now. There's a lot going on with that in particular, but with transsexual rights, transgender rights. I apologize.
That's all right.
And there's a lot of that going on. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's a rough time, y'all.
Right.
Like the current legislature, I mean, because fixing the power grid would be hard.
Well, yeah,
that'd be a
lie.
challenge.
Yeah.
But some trans kid at some high school 4 towns away, you can like make that person, make some high school kid the boogeyman. That's much easier.
It's way easier.
So if you have someone LGBTQ plus come into your office, friend, like just be aware there is a very high chance that they are in trauma right now.
Right.
At least somewhere if they stop and think about it, even if they're mostly good, like like a lot of people have an exit plan, at least in the back of their head, you know, and I have seen very detailed, like option 1 is best case scenario. You're like slowly getting your professional licensures. Maybe you go get like, if you're an attorney, your license in another state, just in case. See about if you have Italian or Irish ancestors, but then plan 2 is you're in more of a hurry. Plan 3 is like, you've got a go bag.
Right.
You've already got a plan for your pet.
Yeah.
Can you give us a little insight as to why there are exit strategies, just for those that don't know?
Yeah. So at the moment, there are bills in the Texas legislature, hopefully that do not become law, that are talking about just criminalizing basically existence, using any bathroom anywhere, just making it so difficult to exist in this state as a transgender person that people will be at least planning the slow exits.
Right.
I mean, almost anybody. And they made it policy-wise about 6 months ago now, they made it so that you could no longer correct driver's licenses and birth certificates, even if you had a court order.
Yeah.
Even if you had a court-ordered name change, court-ordered gender correction. And I've had this effect. I occasionally represent people who, like cisgender, not transgender people who just a doctor made an error in the hospital. I had one client who had It's a Boy bracelet that his mom had saved from his baby book, but the birth certificate said female. I mean, it's just some people need a correction to their birth certificate for various reasons. And
because humans make mistakes.
Yes, doctors, believe it or not.
I had to fix our firstborns.
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. 100%.
Oh, I'm curious what happened.
I don't know how it ended up happening, but the maiden name that was listed was my married name, which is a problem because it's always like a security question.
Okay, interesting.
So he's 8. I just fixed it.
Yeah.
You got it sorted. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I had someone Hispanic who was born in Texas, and her mom's last or middle name was put as Feminina, which just means female.
Right.
And it just, I mean, you see errors on birth certificates, so there needs to be a procedure to fix it. And we had one, and then they're just like, nope, can't do that anymore.
It's like the THC thing, though, right? I mean, come on, they kind of couldn't figure that out either, right? You know what I mean?
How so?
Well, on the
What do you mean?
on the THC thing, they were like, we're going to ban this, but we're going to legalize this, but they couldn't figure out how to test for it, and so now
they
they're
wanna backtrack
now
on
they're trying to backtrack and say, okay, you can't do it at all, right? No THC at all,
Yeah,
right?
but now you can buy it in liquor stores
so now they want to
on
take
South Lamar near my house.
exactly.
And, I mean,
and now they're trying to take that back away, and it's like
you can't unring the bell.
Right, you can't unring the bell. Yeah, it's just bananas to me. So my
I
point of that
think
was more of the legislature, right? Of
it's
being incompetent.
The legislature being incompetent is a common thread.
Right,
Yes,
right, that's fair.
I will say the Texas founding fathers, in their wisdom, have said they only meet every 2 years,
Right.
and only for a couple of months. So the damage is thankfully somewhat limited.
That's fair. That's fair. That's
So,
fair.
what type of impact has it had on the community to not be able to change birth certificates?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
I mean, I think just for trans people, it's a sign of we don't want you here as a person. Like we aren't going to accept what your doctor says. We aren't going to accept what a judge says. It's just really dehumanizing, I think, if you can't get your papers sorted. And like I said, trauma response. So if you have someone, if a lawyer is listening and you have someone from that community walk into your office, talk to them like you would someone who's recently been assaulted.
Right.
Like whatever you do for a victim of that is how you should be talking to someone and using all your trauma training and skills.
That's really good insight.
Yeah.
What resources do you think are out there to help? Well, let me say this. Let's say a transgender person walks in your office and you approach them in that manner. What resources are you giving them? Probably a better question.
Well, I mean, if they can pay for it, we can just help them and they don't have to deal with the government folks at all. We'll do it for people.
Right.
For folks who are trying to DIY, there are Facebook groups which have pretty good information. Lambda Legal is great. They're a Texas organization for LGBTQ plus folks. They have good and updated information on their website. They just did a YouTube video with really updated stuff. There's a national, TENT, TENT, is Texas. And then there's a national group, Trans Equality, where one of my legal assistants was checking their Texas info and saying, oh, this is really updated.
Right.
They were impressed, yeah.
They're impressed with it, yeah. Good.
So there are some organizations to help folks who are information gathering.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Tell me, as we are waiting for this legislative session to pass and that sort of stuff, do you see any, what do you think the fallout is going to be? What are the major issues or changes there? I mean, obviously.
I think Austin's going to be a little less weird. I mean, people are moving and making plans to move.
To move because of that.
I think if you care about, the economy, which some Republicans seem to.
Some people do.
I think it makes big business less likely to want to move, to have a Texas office.
Right.
The people who work at big business are sometimes LGBTQ plus, and if they don't feel safe in Texas, I think we'll get fewer conferences and conventions because employees and groups will be like, I'm not safe in that state.
Right.
Don't
You want to
don't
go
do our
somewhere-
conference there.
You
Yeah.
want to go somewhere where your whole team is included.
It's included, right. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah. There's economic fallout from
From
acting in, I would consider it fascist ways towards certain groups of people. But yeah.
Tell me, as lawyers, what are the things that we could do to help in that situation?
Well, you donate of your time or you donate of your dollars.
Right.
So Equality Texas is doing direct work fighting these kinds of things. Lambda Legal, you can call and, ask how you could volunteer as a lawyer. Do a divorce for a low income LGBT person, whatever is your skill set, volunteer. And you can, I think any pro bono takes some. If you call legal aid or volunteer legal services or whatever in your community are the options, and you take something off their plate, then it frees up their attorney to
do
help
something.
other groups. Yeah.
To do something.
Yeah.
in dealing with LGBTQ plus community in divorces and child custody cases. Tell me what issues you deal with specifically on that.
So one thing that comes up we haven't talked about at all is just informal marriage.
Okay.
Comes up. When you have an opposite sex couple with an informal marriage, sometimes there'll be just a short period of informal marriage before they got formally married, or, I mean, it can be longer, but when you have same-sex couples who weren't allowed to be married until 2015, at least in Texas, I mean, they could go to other states, but it's a little more common that there's a long period prior to a period of formal marriage, and it's just that you get the ones, and this happens in opposite sex couples too, where one person doesn't even think they're married at all, and the other person is, and then they get served with a divorce petition.
Right, yeah.
And that's, I don't know if y'all have encountered that, but that's always extremely disconcerting and like double frustrating for the person who didn't even think they were married.
Right. And what's amazing on those situations too, like you said, it's always, we're not married at all. No, we're 100% married. And you're like, man, y'all aren't even on the same page, but in the same house.
So you're definitely married.
And sometimes it's real cut and dry. Like, did you file taxes together?
Right.
Congratulations. But sometimes, I mean, the case law's all over the place for that, as y'all might know it. Because it's a tribal to a jury. And is your client likable?
Right.
Then maybe they win or maybe they lose.
Right, exactly.
And sometimes juries are just like, oh, let's help out the poorer person.
Right, yeah. And that's fair. And that, and it's the thing too, a lot of times people, they don't realize what their actions will actually create that marriage. A lot of times we live in a society, regardless of orientation or anything like that. Oftentimes you're in a space where it's much more acceptable, I guess maybe is a word, to engage in a relationship, live with them, kind of start to cohabitate with them, and intermingle all your stuff, your finances.
Oh, but Bryan, I just put her on my health insurance at work.
Yeah,
that's all.
That's exactly.
But we're not married.
But we're not married. We're not married. That's exactly. We filed taxes together, but we're not married.
We just did that for the taxes, but we're good, right?
Yeah, we're good. I called her. I have this affidavit that I gave my insurance company that says that we're married, but I was just doing that. And so, but it's interesting because those are things that come up, and they come up regardless. But I'm sure you have to deal with that. And what I think I'm hearing you say, Christine, too, is the optics on that are a little bit different when dealing with that particular community, and maybe a longer duration or a higher burden.
Yeah, and I think it's less of a difference for the opposite sex couples now, but you could still have someone who has a 30-year relationship before 2015, and then they got formally married 2015, and that's just 10 years of it. And so it's just, it can have a little bit of a different flavor.
Yeah.
So how does that impact the divorce then? What is the argument when you go in? Do you argue that they were actually married for longer than the 10 years?
The poorer person whose attorney says they were married says that's a 30-year marriage.
Right.
Because when something's found to be unconstitutional in Obergefell, it's found to have always been unconstitutional. Right. And that's a 30-year marriage. And then the richer person is like, no, it's a 10-year marriage.
Right. Because we actually went and got married that day, right?
You can do tacking. So there's some case law on that. And it's a really good case to settle. Right. I mean, there's a lot of mediators kind of like them because like what can happen in court is such a big range on the math. Yeah. So there's a lot of room for settlement in there.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
There's a lot more that I have on my list here to talk about. And I'm not sure we'll get into all of it today, but I got to tell you, I've enjoyed this conversation. I've enjoyed hearing particularly what you do and the way you do it. I like that. I mean that sincerely.
I like my job.
You seem, and I got to tell you this, you seem very passionate about it. One, you're very knowledgeable about it. Two, and I appreciate you coming on and sharing that with us.
Yeah.
I mean that sincerely. Real fast, just so everybody knows, they can get a hold of you, obviously, on your website, right?
Yeah, chawlaw.com is probably the best. I'm a little bit on social media. I have a Facebook business page, which you can dig up if you search for Chaw Law or my name, Christine Henry Andreessen. I am not good about tweeting or I was like hacked on Instagram. That's a whole long, boring story.
Oh man.
It's I'm the website if someone's trying to get in touch with me. It's the best way.
Fantastic. Guys, if you're trying to get a hold of Christine, let her reach out to her at her URL, which is chalaw, CHALAW.com. Christine, thank you so much. I got to tell you something too. Christine, I don't know if you know this or not, but this is going to be a very memorable episode.
Oh, good.
And the reason
I hope that's good. Well, why?
It's not. Well, it's for two reasons. One, because of you, but two, this will be the very first one. And I'm just letting you know, I realized this like 2 minutes into this, Josh. I didn't introduce the drink. And I noticed it when I reached down to pick it up. And so we're going to roll with it. We're not changing it. So here's what we're going to do, Christine.
Okay.
So I'm going to now tell everyone what we've been drinking. And it's fantastic, by the way. I finished almost my entire one. My beautiful wife's going to tell us what we've been drinking, and then we'll get out of here.
It's an easy one. It's pineapple punch. So it's just pineapple juice, lime, and tequila.
Nice. We got Fortaleza Blanco, which is a fantastic drink.
Very pretty.
And here,
Cheers.
to you. Thank you.
Thank you
It's
for
an
coming.
amazing episode. Greatly appreciate that. Like I said, it's been fantastic. I've enjoyed that entire thing. All right, guys, thank you for hanging out with us again here at Cases of Cocktail, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
And be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
Cheers.